Hi, Gabe here, West Coast SCI Physiotherapy. Today we're going to do standing exercises for older adults. These exercises are based on the SAIL 2 program, which means staying active for independent living for life. As always, remember to subscribe and like our channel to stay on top of the latest releases. Safety tips for level 2 SAIL exercises. Again, do only the activities you feel safe and comfortable doing. Stand tall through all the activities. Feet should be shoulder width apart. Hold position means hold for 3 seconds. Over time, add more activities until you're doing all of them. Keep breathing normally. Do not hold your breath. If necessary, begin with a few of the activities, but do them several times a day. Over time, hold on less of the sink or counter. If any of these activities add to your pain or shortness of breath, stop and rest. Do less another day. Talk with your doctor or other healthcare professional. So this exercise is called toe taps and heel taps. I want to make sure I'm grasping firmly onto the counter. I like to use a sink counter so then I can grasp it a little bit easier, but any kitchen counter can work as well. What I will do is start with one foot, lift my heel off the ground, tap the heel, and then repeat on that same foot. So I'll do 5 to 10 repetitions, depending on how challenging that is. And then I'll repeat on the other foot. After I finish the heel taps, I'll try toe taps. So I'm lifting my toe off the ground, 1 foot at a time. And if you're finding this really easy, I'll show you a harder way in just a moment. The thing with the toe taps is you want to make sure you're not leaning back. What a lot of people will do is have problems in their ankle mobility, meaning that they have stiff ankles and they're going to want to lean really far back when they do that. And that can be very dangerous. So you definitely do not want to be leaning back. You want to stay nice and tall and upright while you lift your toes off the ground. Next version will be doing both legs at the same time. So I'm going to lift both my heels off. Sometimes we call this a calf raise for those of you that are more familiar with exercises at the gym. And again, I'm staying nice and upright. I'm not leaning back. I'm not leaning forward. I'm nice and tall, chest high, looking straight ahead. And again, 5 to 10 repetitions. And then the next one is 2-leg toe taps. Like you're tapping your toes to music. But again, what a lot of people will do is find this very difficult because they don't have the greatest mobility through their ankles. So they're going to start leaning back. And again, very dangerous. I would highly recommend do not do this. If you cannot do this exercise correctly by staying upright, then you start just with 1 foot at a time. And if you can't progress to 2 feet at a time, you just skip that one altogether. This exercise is marching on the spot in standing. Again, nice and close to the countertop, feet about shoulder width apart. So we'll start by marching, alternating your feet for about 10 seconds, and then having a rest. So again, the height is up to you. The lower the height, the easier. The higher the height that you lift, the harder. So there's about 10 seconds. I'll show you a harder version. So again, you're just lifting a little bit higher. Be aware of where your counter is and don't hit your shin or your knee on the counter, of course. And you're just trying to lift as high as you can. So about 10 seconds, have a rest. The way to make this a little bit more challenging is to hold less and less on the counter. So obviously safety first. If you're finding your balance is an issue, you definitely want to have your hands on the counter and grasping tightly. If your balance is actually pretty good, you can either hover over the counter so you're not grasping as tightly, but kind of having your hands there in case, and you're going to march as such. So there's many ways you can make this more challenging on yourself. Challenge yourself, but always consider safety first. 10-second bouts, repeat as many times as you want. When you're first starting, obviously short bouts is better. And as you get more and more strong and better balance, you can increase the amount of time you're spending marching up to a couple minutes even. This exercise is called mini squats. So again, I'll start by grasping firmly onto the counter, feet shoulder width apart, And first thing first, I'm going to pretend I'm sitting back in a chair. And when I say that, I mean I'm going to drive my hips back rather than think about bend my knees. So again, grasping nice and firmly, driving my hips back like I'm sitting on a chair, and then standing nice and tall upright. So the big thing is with this, making sure that I'm not bending my knees over my toes. So I don't want to be bringing my knees towards the counter. That is not what we're trying to do. More rather, I'm trying to sit my hips behind me by driving my hips backwards. And as I stand up, I'm going to stand nice and tall, straighten out through my hips, nice tall through the chest, and practice maybe 5 to 10 repetitions and having a break. To make this a little bit more challenging, we can just increase the amount of repetitions. So instead of doing 10 repetitions, I can try 15. Or again, if you feel safe, lifting your hands slightly off the counter so I can float over it and do the same type of movement, but just less holding on to the counter. Of course, you always want to think safety first. Make sure that you feel safe with just standing without holding on before you try any movement without holding on. This exercise is alternating leg out to the side. So again, grasping onto the countertop, what I'll do first is lift one leg off the ground and I'm going to bring it out to the side like I'm doing a snow angel. I'm going to alternate right foot, then left foot. So I kind of lean and weight shift my weight onto one leg as I kick my other leg out to the side. Something to be really considerate about in this one is to try to keep my foot or my toes facing forward. So my toes should be pointing towards the counter and not out to the side. What a lot of people will do is start doing this kind of movement where I'm pointing my foot sideways. Not to say this is a terrible thing to do, but it's actually working a very different muscle than we're trying to activate. So again, what we want to do, toe pointing forward and lifting out to the side. So I'll start by doing about 10 repetitions, so 5 on each leg, and then having a rest, and maybe that's all I do for the day. To make that more challenging, of course, we just increase your repetitions. Big thing, so I'm weighing on one leg and then kicking the leg out to the side, keeping my toes ahead. A way to make this harder, again, lifting your hands and trying that without holding on as tightly. Much harder for this exercise because you're only standing on one leg. So this is quite advanced exercise, or a variation that is quite advanced compared to some other ones we've done. This exercise is called alternating legs behind you. So again, standing nice and tall, grasping onto the counter. What I'll do is again, weight shift onto my left. I'm going to kick my right leg behind me and then return to the start position. So nice and slow and steady, keeping my toes pointing straight ahead of me, holding on with both hands for to start. 5 repetitions on each leg. So again, we're working your hips and your balance muscles. Again, to make this a little bit harder, what we can do is just increase your repetitions. So instead of doing 5 per leg, I could do maybe 7 or 8 per leg. Again, keeping those toes forward and hanging on with both hands. To again make this a little bit more challenging is holding on less and less to the counter. So even just with my fingertips, for example, or even completely off and just floating over top. I always recommend your hands stay very close to the counter. So if you do lose your balance, I can grab on very easily versus, for example, putting my hands in my pockets or having your hands out to the side. Much easier if you're going to practice challenging your balance to keep really close to the counter to avoid any accidents. The last thing you want to do is injure yourself while you're trying to get stronger. This exercise is called tap dancing. So again, standing close to the counter, hands nice and firm on the counter as well. What I'm going to do is shift my weight onto my left while I tap my foot in 3 different directions. Out to the side, return, out to the back, return, and out to the front, and return. Switch legs, out to the side, return, out to the back, return, and to the front, and return. So this is here it goes again, and front, out to the side, back, and to the front. And again, if you're finding this very easy, we can increase the tempo, so increase the speed. Of course, I'm lifting my foot, I'm not dragging it around. I'm just increasing the speed to make that a little bit more challenging, improve your agility, and then after a couple repetitions, I'll have a rest. Again, to make this a little bit more challenging, it's that lifting the hands, or at least having your fingertips only. And then again, I'll slow it down. Tap dancing, we call it, out to the side, out to the back, and to the front. Again, I start with a few repetitions on each foot, increasing the repetitions as you feel more confident with it. And then the last way to make it more challenging, raising the hands off the counter. There we have tap dancing. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments if you have any suggestions for future videos. If you enjoyed what you saw, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.